mobile app development meetup. So welcome all, thanks everyone for RSVP, joining this meetup and showing out here today. I wanted to check first off, how many of you are coming to Hacker Dojo for the first time? Hacker Dojo, first time. Bunch of you. So I just wanted to tell you a little bit more about Hacker Dojo. So this is a co-working facility, which means there are about like 400 people who sit here, work on their own stuff. Most of them are working on their own startups. And if you do the math, there are about 100 startups coming out of Hacker Dojo at this time. Some of the prominent startups from Hacker Dojo include Pinterest. Pinterest started from Hacker Dojo. And also Pebble Watch, if you've seen that cool watch, that also originated out of Hacker Dojo. I've been working on my own startup for about a year now, right here at Hacker Dojo. So I'm a local, yeah, thanks. All my Hacker Dojo homies. And this is a really, really high energy place. The energy is really contagious. It's a fabulous place if you are doing a startup. So if any of you are looking to do your own startup, highly recommend this place. Anyone looking to do a startup anytime soon, real soon, doing it already? Yeah, wonderful. So yeah, Hacker Dojo is where I chose to start my own startup. I also wanted to give you a little bit background about how this whole meetup started. So my startup is actually working in enterprise mobility space, and for a year I've been working on the product, pretty much ready with the MVP now. And I said, let me start going to some relevant meetups. So I went to meetup.com, searched, and I found that there were no relevant meetups going on at all. There were meetups on HTML5 development, there were meetups on company-specific stuff like PhoneGap and Titanium and so on, but not a generic meetup which would cover the gamut of all the issues related to building enterprise mobile apps. So that gave me an idea that I should be doing this new meetup. And to my surprise, I'm really surprised that the response has been fantastic. There have been a bunch of RSVPs and so many of you have shown up today. So again, thank you to all of you. Welcome all of you to the first meetup here. And also this kind of fantastic response shows one more thing, very important thing. That finally enterprise mobility seems to be getting cool, getting hot. The word enterprise mobility has been around for a while now. And every year, the pundits say, this year is going to be the breakout year for enterprise mobility. It has not happened for several years. But I have a gut feeling that 2014 might be that year where enterprise mobility becomes really, really hard. So you guys are contributing to that by being present here today. So why enterprise mobility and why is it getting hot now? So as you look at the history of enterprise apps, they started with desktop client-server applications, then they moved on to web-based applications, and now that mobile is pervasive all over, now it's the time for enterprise mobile applications. And this week we saw a couple of announcements, very interesting. The first one, Apple having a partnership with IBM to push their mobile devices inside the enterprise. So that is two big giants coming together on that. The second one was last week where Amazon announced a set of application level services, completely new set of services, again aimed at enterprise mobile. So all the big players are coming in, a bunch of startups already working on this. So enterprise mobile is really, really hot topic as of now. What I want to check again from all of you is that none of you are here today on a wrong premise. This is not a generic mobile development meetup. So I'm hoping that none of you are looking to build your own Fruit Ninja equivalent game here. This meetup is focused on building enterprise apps, the apps that perform business functions, the apps that are transactional in nature, and the apps that can deliver business analytics or some kind of intelligence on your fingertips. So that's what the agenda is about here. Show of hands, all of you who are here for the right kind of enterprise mobile apps. Wonderful, thank you. So I wanted to see, again, just get a flavor of audience here. But before I do that, the most important thing, the pizza will come around 5:30 to 5:45, so just hold off on your appetite till that point. I wanted to start with a couple of polls, audience polls. Okay. So I wanted to check how many of you guys have started on your enterprise mobile journey already. So this question is, if you guys have built anything related to enterprise mobile already or not. So the first thing is, how many of you have built responsive websites? The website that render great on mobile Safari. Yes, 2, 3, 4, 5. What about hybrid apps? HTML5 apps which look more native. Alright. And what about native apps? Need not be enterprise apps, any native apps. Alright. So I see kind of the right trend that I was expecting, that people have dabbled in all three of these technologies. When you built a cross-platform app, if you have built it, what kind of underlying framework did you use? One of these. PhoneGap, Cordova. Anyone use PhoneGap? Okay. Titanium from Accelerator. None. What about Trigger.io? Have you heard of Trigger? None. So these are, looks like, everyone is getting just started because these platforms are not that popular. Meaning people have not heard of Titanium, although it's really, really cool platform. And similarly, Trigger.io, which is very recent platform, is again not getting as much traction so far. Next up, when those of you who build native apps, which platform did you target? iOS, Android, Windows? Woo. Any other BlackBerry? Alright. So looks like Android is winning in the native space here. And have you used any of these UI frameworks? jQuery Mobile, Sencha, Kony, Kendo, anything else? Alright, so looks like people are very, very new to these technologies, haven't tried it yet. So I'm hoping that this meetup that I've started will actually expose you to all these different technologies, different issues related to building mobile apps, and also expose you to issues which are more relevant on enterprise side than consumer side. Things like single sign-on, things like security, role-based access control, multi-org access control, security of the data at rest, security of the data on the wire, things like integration into legacy systems such as Oracle, SAP, and other systems inside the enterprise. So that is the general purpose idea of this meetup, and I hope all of us can contribute in now and in future to educate ourselves on these issues. So with that, I wanted to give you the agenda. So before I walk you through this, I wanted to tell you that this meetup is not meant as a marketing kind of meetup where companies market their product. It's a member-driven meetup. This is the first meetup, so I've filled up with 2 speakers. But at the end of today's meeting, we are all going to collectively decide on how the meetup is going to go from the next time we meet, what the agenda might look like, what kind of speakers we might invite, what are the themes that we may have for the future meetups. But for today, I wanted to fill up by inviting 2 speakers. The first one is myself, Puneet. So I'll talk to you about my startup, Verasynth, which is again originating right out of Hacker Dojo here. And I'll talk to you how the issues around mobile application development and how Verasynth can help you rapidly build mobile apps. The second speaker is Sanjay, is right in the back of the room, from Mocana. Sanjay will talk about building security into your mobile apps. We'll also talk about security when it comes to integrating into your legacy backend systems. So those are really, really important issues when it comes to enterprise mobile apps. So that's the second speaker. After that, we'll kind of wrap up with some announcement. We'll try to plan for the next meetup. And in the end, we'll open up just for a social. We'll have pizza by that time, we'll have lots of beer, and we'll get to know each other much better during that social. Does that make sense? Everyone happy with this agenda? Any changes, any comments? Cool, good. So I'll start with my presentation now. So the startup is called Verasynth, and we have a product called FAST, Foundation as a Service. The way I started on the startup was, let me give you a background of my introduction into this whole market segment. So I have a computer science background, undergrad and graduate degrees in computer science. I started my career working for Oracle in Red Butchers in 2001, working on their financial application, procurement applications, and so on. After 7 years, I moved to Yahoo in their CIO's organization, working on very similar back office applications, primarily Oracle applications. I worked there for about 5 years, and until last year when I quit and have been working on this startup. So why did I quit and why did I start on this thing? So what happened at Yahoo was we were looking to build mobile apps, internal in-house mobile apps. The first one, obviously, that came out was the employee search related apps. So people should be able to search for employees, call them up on their phone, on their mobile devices. So our team, the CIO's team, built that app, used PHP and responsive design, and just hacked it together. Another request came in from another business group, this time asking for some approvals related app. So a separate set of people hacked together that. So our CIO realized that this is going to be a trend. I'm talking about early 2013. And he said, we need to have a coherent, consistent, simple strategy around building numerous in-house mobile apps. And there was a project done to figure out what are the options in the market to have that kind of coherent strategy. And we researched through and figured out the market doesn't have a solution which covers end-to-end problems about building in-house mobile apps. And well, the CIO's team decided any future incoming requests for building in-house mobile apps, we are going to deprioritize them for now because we are not ready. And that gave me the idea that if it is not there, somebody needs to build it, I'll give it a shot and I'll take a crack at it and I'll build the product which solves all the issues related to building in-house mobile apps. And I quit. I've been working on it with a small team, 3 of us hacking it together. And today, we are ready to launch our private beta. It's going to be a small beta, invite only, open unfortunately for everyone else. It's going to be open only for Hacker Dojo members. So if you have a Hacker Dojo email ID and you are interested, we'll send you the invitation code. The reason I want to open it small is because I want to get the close feedback at the early stages of the product design. So this is the basic architecture of our product. At the bottom, you can see the infrastructure services, which pretty much all enterprises already have. They have the basic compute, basic storage, basic database already as part of their enterprise IT setup. What we are building at Verasynth is this foundation layer we call foundation as a service. You can think it of as backend as a service, which is a more popular terminology in the industry today. And on top of that, foundation services, which is nothing but a set of APIs and workflows, we have these different components we have built for building mobile apps. So we are introducing as part of our startup this concept of Agile apps. So if you are used to Agile Scrum methodologies where you build applications in small iterations so that after every iteration you have a shippable product, our platform gives you that ability out of the box, so you can iterate really quickly. We have built the technology for remote app loading, which means you could build your app completely on a web server, and we can pull it onto the device remotely. And subsequently, it starts running locally on your device. We have built private app store, white labeled for your companies, for your organization, so that if you are building in-house apps and you don't necessarily want to publish it to public app stores such as Apple App Store and Google Play Store, and yet you want to be able to distribute to your large employee workforce, govern them across multiple business units, you need a private app store. So we provide private app store. We have a mobile application server, the piece that sits inside your firewall and helps you integrate with your legacy system. We have built a really cool technology where, using our mobile application server, not only can you connect to your Oracle financial application and SAP's supply chain applications, you can auto-generate a client-side SDK, which means the mobile JavaScript SDK is auto-generated based on the code that you write on your server. So this is a technology that we have built. We are very proud of it. We are right now in the process of patenting it. The other thing as part of the mobile application server that we have built is the ability for you to communicate with your device without opening an inbound firewall port. If you have worked in an enterprise, you would know that opening an inbound firewall port is a big security risk. You expose your infrastructure to denial of service attacks and so on. With our technology, you do not have to open inbound firewall ports, and yet the mobile app can communicate with your legacy systems and vice versa. So that's our mobile application server. Next up, app and data security. We wrap the app that an IT developer creates into a secure shell so that the app is secure, the data at rest is secure, the data on the wire is secure. And this is the piece which Sanjay from Mocana is going to elaborate much more for you. And finally, we have this centralized signing keys. To build your app, you have to sign it with keys from, let's say, Apple. Those signing keys are like your passwords for your company, the enterprise signing keys. In today's app, if you're building enterprise applications, every IT developers need access to that signing keys so that they can build their apps, which is not the best security practice. With our platform, only the admins have access to the signing keys, and every IT developer is still able to build their applications without even having access to signing keys. And finally, we have on the side this marketplace. Marketplace is a concept where as an IT developer, if you build a really cool app for your company, you should be able to put it out to be used as is by another company and perhaps make revenue out of it. If you build an app using the FAST platform, you can put it out there on the marketplace. So these are some of the things that we have built as part of our startup. In the next slide, I'm going to show what Foundation as a Service means. These are the set of APIs that we have built, focused on enterprise apps, starting from basic services like authentication and access control. Attachment is a service. Approval engine, which is a killer feature in enterprise. In consumer side, approvals don't matter as much. But on enterprise, even the simplest of apps requires manager approval or some other complicated approval. So approvals is part of our platform. Similarly, basic tax calculations, currency conversion, these are available as out-of-the-box APIs. Okay, so that was the overview of what we have built as part of our startup. I want to introduce you to this concept of agile development for mobile. So if you are familiar with Scrum and iterative development, we aid you to use the same methodologies. Not only that, we help IT developers who are experienced only in building web applications to gradually transform into being mobile app developers. So we'll show you how it goes. In iteration 1, let's say you get business requirements which consist of certain screens, fields, transition from page 1 to page 2. So you build a web app which is responsive and show it to your business developers. But then instead of asking them to open it in mobile Safari, we help you convert it into a native app which launches nothing but a web viewer. But you are quickly able to build native apps which have your responsive website running. So that's iteration number 1, and you can get your feedback immediately from your business users for their initial set of requirements. In iteration 2, you will start using device features in that your code is still running on your web server, but you can start dropping in if conditions that if this code is running on the device, then instead of loading an attachment from your desktop, launch the camera function so that people can take a picture of a document and attach it. So those are the kind of things we expect in iteration 2, adding all the device features. Now, most important thing, in iteration 2, your code is still running on the web server, and yet you are able to call device APIs, and our technology plumbs the call to the right Cordova APIs. So think about it, it's a very important feature. If you are transitioning from a web developer to being a mobile developer, you continue to build your web app and they will magically work on devices and cross-platform devices. In iteration 3, now that you have your basic pages, your fields, logic, validation, everything done, you are able to use your mobile features. Next up is performance. So far your code is running on web server. We have built a technology that you can pull that code from the web server onto your local device, and everything starts running much snappier because now it is running locally. Optionally, you can turn off your web server. So now you have a local mobile app which is running using all your assets locally, and you've transitioned from being a web developer to being a mobile developer. So this is the agile development methodology that we are proposing as part of our startup. The next up. a demo. So I'm going to do a live demo. And if it does not work, and if the demo gods are not with me today, I have a set of screenshots. So I'm not going to show everything that we built. But this is the scope of the demo that I will do. I'll assume that there's a company called Acme Enterprise. It signs up with our platform. It creates its own private app store, and it creates a directory app, all within 10 minutes. Fingers crossed. So this is, can you hear me now without the mic? Yeah. So this is our product fast.io, beta.fast.io, and I'm going to register here. We have an invitation code which you can use if you want. You can use my Gmail address. So as you can see, I signed up. It's a very developer-oriented product, so you get an API key and that kind of thing. But first off, I'm going to launch the process of building my private app store. Here I am updating just the name of my enterprise. I have two app stores available, one global app store and one for my one business unit called United States. That app store has one seeded app called the directory app. I'm going to go build it. So what I'm providing here is just the icon which I'm constructing, or you could upload, and the splash screen. And I hit this button, create app store, and it will build it for these three platforms: Android, iOS, and Windows. It will take about 2 to 3 minutes to build this app store. Meanwhile, for the directory app to have some function, we are going to create users. So the first user was the guy who signed up. That's me. Let's say I'm the CEO of Acme. So that's user number one. I'm going to create another user. That's Dave, my co-founder, sitting here. And I'm going to see if we can find a picture of Dave on the internet. Right here. And I'm going to create a manager hierarchy just so that you can see what it is. So Dave is just a programmer. We just hired him out of college. Manager is Puneet. So we now have 2 users in our system, and we are going to build our directory app. So right now there are 2 things building. One is the app store itself. The second is the first app for our enterprise, the directory app. Let's see if the app store is ready. It is ready. So I'm going to download it right here. this reflector app being used. So this is my phone. And I'm scanning this QR code over here for the iOS. I'll say, install your Acme Enterprise App Store. Hit install, and it's right now installing the App Store. I'll launch it. The demo god's not very happy. Looks like the demo is right now not working as I was expecting. There's some issue here. I'm going to walk you through with my backup plan, which is a set of screenshots. So this just shows the sign-up process that we did so far, how we submitted for the build. We scanned the QR code and it asked me to install the App Store. And upon launching the App Store, it prompts me for my credentials, which I use for my sign-up. And I sign in, and it will show me the apps belonging to my organization. So I tap on the first one, the directory app, and it asks me to install it from right within the App Store app itself. And you can install the directory app, and now you have two apps available to you here. First is the App Store, the second one is the directory app. And you launch the directory app, and it shows up the users for your organization. So this is the power of our platform, where you are able to get started really quickly and have value available to your enterprise in a matter of minutes. So I'm apologize that the live demo didn't work, but I hope you got the gist of the idea what we are trying to show. I wanted to just walk you through the benefits, why what I showed is important. By the way, all our apps are, in our platform, we are not pegging into any UI framework. The reason is an HTML5 mobile UI capabilities are improving drastically on a day-to-day basis, from jQuery mobile to Sencha, Kendo and all. But we love this new framework called Ionic. So we are using Ionic framework to build our App Store app and all. And we encourage every one of our customers to use Ionic as well. So our platform was easy to learn from a web developer to becoming a mobile developer. It's a very, very smooth transition. You use familiar technologies, HTML5, JavaScript, and Cordova. That's the set of APIs that probably is something you'll have to learn as a mobile developer. We help you do cross-platform development. You have to build services. You do not need to have a MacBook Pro to build iOS apps. You could might as well use Windows to build iOS apps and use your Mac to build Windows apps. And you don't even have to install Cordova and all. All of it is available as service to you. And most importantly, as a new business model, the consumerization of IT, we help you to get started instantly. There is no huge sales cycles, no contracts. You just sign up, start using our platform instantly, and you get metered pricing based on how much you use. So that was about my platform. I'll end here. If you guys have any questions, I'll take Q&A right now. Any questions? Could you say that again?
I just want to clarify. So from your demo, you are showing one enterprise, one app store, one provider app store. This is your policy to say
correct.
On your platform, each enterprise has a private app store for this enterprise.
Yes.
And then the question is, when you build this on-charge application, do you integrate it with Contact or like Google Plus or
yeah. Great question. So the question for everyone else is that the demo showed the org chart, the directory app. How do we get that data? How do we integrate into, let's say, if you are a Google Apps customer, or let's say you use Oracle HRMS or Workday. So that is the piece I initially mentioned about our mobile application server. The mobile application server is a generic server which is used to build these integrations. And one of the important things that we have built as part of our mobile application server is out-of-the-box integration into Oracle applications. We are very much focused on Oracle applications. So if you use our platform and our mobile application server, the directory app will work out of the box for Oracle customers. If you are already using Oracle HRMS, it will pull data from your Oracle database and populate into our system. For Google Apps, you'll probably have to build the integration. Maybe at some point we will have it as out of the box as well. Thank you. Any other questions? Cool. So we'll move on to the next presentation, which is Mocana. So, Mocana is a company which works for mobile app security for enterprise. We have here Sanjay, who is the Director of Developer Relations. Verasynth is working very closely with Mocana to build all the security. What we realized early on as we were building this platform was that the best of breed security features for your mobile apps are already available from Mocana as ready-to-use APIs. So we did not want to reinvent the whole wheel for security, and Verasynth is right now integrating with Mocana for building all our security needs. Sanjay has been really helpful with us. We being a really early stage startup, they have provided a lot of close feedback to us to improve our product as well. So I'm very thankful to Sanjay. Another reason I'm thankful to Sanjay is that today's beer and pizza is sponsored by Mocana. So he's been grateful enough to sponsor it. Big round of applause for Sanjay. With that, I'm going to hand it over to him for his part of the presentation.
All right, thanks a lot.
Yes.
Thanks a lot, Puneet. You guys hear me okay? All right. So, as Puneet mentioned, my name is Sanjay. I'm going to spend like a couple of minutes talking about myself. I'm Canadian. It's kind of hard for me to talk about myself, but I'm going to try because there's a bit of a story here. So, I'm a software developer. A long time ago, I built C++, real-time sort of operating systems for telecom systems. Boring stuff, right? It takes, I don't know, like 6 months to launch a feature, especially if you're a part of a larger company, maybe it's a year to launch a feature. So one thing I promised myself was never to do boring things again, right? And in the telecom world, that's being solved as we speak. Companies like Twilio makes it extremely easy for you to like do any kind of communication service. Just call the RESTful API, invoke messaging, and then, or if you want to do voice within your application, it's just a few lines of code. And in addition to kind of getting things to market faster, as a developer, when I saw that, the thing that was most attractive to me was the fact that I did not have to do boring stuff ever again. I could focus on amazing things that I want to do with my application. I don't want to be worrying about, which SMSC I'm going to connect into. Should I call AT&T and negotiate with them? It's boring, boring stuff. And then, about a year and a half ago, I ran into a company called Mocana. So Mocana is like a, really, I wouldn't want to call a young startup, but it's a startup in a way that they started out 10 years ago. The founders casually started building security libraries that they could supply to companies, that anybody who had a element which had a processor and IP connectivity. It just happened to be very, very important for very critical applications for having security. Example is like a jet engine that GE has hundreds of thousands of sensors. Now these sensors are storing data and B, sending data to some endpoint, and it needed to be secure. I'm going to get to the really interesting part in a bit. This is still boring stuff, right? So because somebody gives you a software library, you now have to integrate that, and you find out that it's kind of hard to do when you have to call Mocana again, and we'll try to help you. Incredibly difficult stuff. So we said, okay, we know how to do security for these incredibly tough environments, but it's still a very cathartic process, back and forth and figuring out how the other environment works. And then thankfully mobile happened. So Android became a dominant sort of player in mobile. But 5 out of 7 Android device manufacturers decided to take our libraries and do like one-time integration. Like Samsung Knox has our VPN technology, or HTC has our data address technology built into it. Now, again, this isn't like super technically brilliant thing to do, because all they did was take the software that we already had out there and integrate it into a very standard Android distribution. And away they went. Still nothing dramatic. But our CTO, his name is James Blakedale, so he went and said, okay, every time we do this, it seems like there is like so much back and forth. It's not like people who are trying to build security into the application are enjoying the process, right? If you don't enjoy the process, you're going to screw it up, guaranteed, right? And as a company that is known for like their security, and really huge security needs, right? We never wanted anybody who has integrated anything into their application to break, either because they didn't do a good job or we didn't supply like information to do this. So that is why what I'm going to talk about was born. Mobile applications that needed to go into an enterprise need to have some checklists, kind of, you have to like check 3 or 4 things. Does not sound like a very complex thing to do. If you ever sold into like an enterprise directly, first thing they will ask you is, hey, basic stuff we want to make sure is if people sign on with their existing credential that they already use for their email, you just want to make sure that it works in your application as well. Very harmless request, but it takes 3 months to build that, right? So that's the first shot. Second thing they will typically ask is, it's great that you guys have like a cool application, and it's also great that it's storing all of our very critical BI data, business intelligence data, on the device. It's great, love it, love the user experience. What is the sort of the encryption model that you guys have? About 6 out of 10 times, right? The majority of the times you'll talk to people, the response that you give that says, you're using the device-based security model, device-based encryption, or device-based key store, you will get rejected. And if you don't handle rejection well, you'll never go back to it, right? But if you did handle rejection well, you'll go and build it again, like another 3 months, right? So if you parallelize a lot of these things, you're typically ending up like 2 guys working like 3 to 4 months trying to harden the application so that it works for one enterprise, right? So that, imagine doing that, and if you're a consumer app developer, you do it once, and you get a basic level of feature set right. You can potentially go after hundreds of thousands of users, up to 1 million users sometimes easily, right? And then you can iterate it, and then you can go on. But the process I described for an enterprise, you're likely going to get one enterprise because you have to do a bunch of custom stuff to get it in there in the first place. And you're likely looking at anywhere between 10,000 seats to like 100,000 seats if you're really lucky. And then you have to do this again for another enterprise. So the interesting part about what we decided to do was we took all of this sort of crazy, boring stuff that you do not want to ever look at or see, made it extremely easy to inject into a fully built mobile application in under 6 seconds. The output of that is you get all these security policies that are really tick marks in the enterprise, but the time that you spent doing that is literally between like an hour to like a day to make sure that one application works the way that you want to for an enterprise. And you keep repeating this every time you need to do a new version. So it's kind of abstract at this point, but I'm going to jump into this is kind of a corporate slide deck, so ignore all the stuff I'm going to say right now. But the whole idea for us was to make sure that no one is limited when it comes to distributing applications in the enterprise. Neither the enterprise nor the app developers who are building for the enterprise. We just want to make sure there are no limitations when you get an application to the end user. Now the user, so there are like a couple of ways you can look at it, right? So one way you can look at it is, one barrier we remove is, as an app developer, you can get into the enterprise by kind of hitting those checklists. That's the first kind of barrier we remove. And so the second barrier we think we remove is, when today the model that, I'm not going to go into why and how, but the model that is kind of built, has been built in the enterprise world is, everything gets built internally for the enterprise users, like a, if you're, I don't know how many people work at a larger company before, but large companies have like a lot of these functions that require the employees to interact with like a web service or a mobile app in this case. An example of this would be, I want to look at my benefits, and I want to like say, I don't want this benefit, I want that benefit, right? So that is like an internal application. The companies will pay you a ton of money to build something like that. But most of the applications, the mental model has been that if you build something for your employees, it's only for your employees, right? But if you're Walmart has more number of interactions outside of their company than within their company. What do you mean by that? Walmart has like 400,000 employees or something like that, crazy amount, right? But the value comes when you have an application that can be delivered to Walmart's partner in China, who's going to look at, hey, inventory levels are going down, maybe I can ship more to Walmart at this time. So that is actually valuable, critical information. But this current mental model for an enterprise application has been, you build something for the employees, you build something for the consumers. But when it comes to like partners and when it comes to contractors and hourly wage work, there isn't like a lot of ways of doing that. I think we also solve that problem. Which is why we say any user, any device. And it's a pretty lucrative business to be in. I don't know if you guys have ever looked at the developer economics survey about 2013, where they talk about how over 50% of the app revenue, like overall app revenue, is actually contractor app revenue, right? Somebody will actually contract somebody to go build something. It's likely that that is an enterprise asking a development studio, an app developer to go build something, right? So it kind of matters if you want to extract, if you want to kind of make money building applications, for example. It's good to be on the side where there is money flowing already. All you need to go and say like, check, I do these things. And I do a few things better than the others, and you can actually get into like a slipstream of revenue, as opposed to worrying about, will 1 million of my users love me? Will the ad network pay me? Will it all, will I become rich, or will I be able to build the next Snapchat? So you take out the uncertainty. So that's our kind of theory when we started building this platform, which we call Atlas. And I'm going to go over why Atlas is important and all of that. But the mental model I was talking about, where enterprise applications today are being built for like one of two domains, that has actually cost a bunch of dollars. One of which, the one manifestation of which is this. You take a regular device, you kind of look at your daily kind of life. You probably have an application for every sort of thing that you would do. Whether you use it or not is highly secondary, but non-use is not because you don't like using it, it's because you don't run into that every day or like every hour. But that's about 40 applications for personal use. You go into an enterprise, look at, this is large enterprises, right? Like very large, like think of like Citigroup or something like that. If you look at somebody, like a typical rank and file person's phone, they likely have just like email, calendar, and like contacts. That is it. That's like, those are the only 3 applications or 4 applications that they use, which is got the enterprise-blessed applications. Now there are a few kind of outliers, like companies that are trying to like break this model, but it's pretty hard to break that model. And we wonder why it's so hard to break the model. The model is there because of a couple of reasons. One is you kind of think of when I was talking about barriers, user experience is a big barrier in the enterprise space, right? So if you have somebody building a really cool application, and then people know that's going to be adopted because the experience is awesome, and then suddenly the security team within the company would say, whoa, we need 2-factor authentication. If you don't know what that is, I'll be there and we'll talk about it. But it's actually even more boring than what I've talked about so far, right? It's hard, it takes 3 months, but it also drives down adoption. Users will not touch the application if they have to log in to like 3 screens to get to like really boring data, right? They don't do it. That's one problem. User experience, kind of like how do you like balance it against security and like policy needs. And the other thing that we need is when IT, which is like usually the buyer, right, or a line of business like a VP of finance would like to have all of his employees using a finance application, they need the comfort that whatever they're deploying is not going to result in them getting fired, right? This is very important. Like you don't want the guy who was signing a check for like buying an application to be fired because he didn't like ask the right question, did not check the right check boxes. So that's the balances always need to be there, and that is actually stopping a lot of like mobile app adoption in the enterprise. Now I want to jump into something a little bit more abstract, but hopefully I'll make a connection to what I'm going to talk about right after. So there are many things that are stopping mobile applications from being adopted in the enterprise, right? One of the reasons is cost, right? So if you think about, if you're a mobile guy, I don't know how many, just a show of hands, how many of you have actually built like an enterprise application and then distributed it internally to an enterprise or sold it to an enterprise? 1, 2, okay, that's good. That's usually the number that I get. Usually I get 0, which is good. So I've already like done a better job. Now I don't know what the experience typically is when you are a software developer or a mobile app developer. What are the touch points? But typically what we hear from our customers is the mobile architect, the mobile app developer, internal, external, never gets to see the sort of the back end of the company's sort of very deep sort of bench. Right? Example is what I'm going to talk about now, which is a VPN gateway. So remote access into the enterprise used to be like a very, very important, powerful thing to do. Every day, like let's say 15 years ago, every day, really there are two types of employees will go home, open up their laptop, and click on the VPN button, and they have to sign in using their VPN credentials, their token information, and they connect. They work for an hour or two, and then they close the laptop and they're done. So remote access used to be a big deal. Two kinds of employees are guys who are in sales, right? They're not typically in the company, so they have to be accessing it from the outside, so they need to have remote access. And the second type of employees are the eager viewers, right? They want to impress their boss and send an email at 8 o'clock at night. Get it, right? So they do that. There are only two cohorts of people who did that. Typically 5 or 6% of your company was a VPN, about 15, 20 years ago. That has changed in mobile, right? You're outside most of the time. You pull up your phone. You want to send a response back to someone. You want to check an activity on an enterprise mobile app. That kind of completely changed the way behavior, the employee behavior, right? Mobile changed employee behavior significantly. But as an example of a barrier that no one talks about, no one really knows about, and especially if you're a mobile app guy, you will never hear this story, is the VPN gateway was built 10 years, 15 years ago, if you a Cisco box, which you probably even bought 10 years ago, they were just software upgrades over time, or a Juniper Mag or something like that. But that has zero capability of scaling to more. Right? So no one is going to come and say, oh, your application is actually a terrible application or anything like that. But in their mind, they're thinking, if your application is actually really good, and then you went and bought, let's say about 10,000 licenses, in turn, they have to actually buy 10,000 user licenses on the VPN gateway, which is very, very expensive. Right? The economics are against you. That's the problem. And you don't even know this. No one will tell you this, right? Because the procurement guy, the VP of finance, would have gone and talked to somebody at IT, and IT, 3 levels down, would have said, oh, no, we can't do that. Sorry, we don't have a budget for this. Right? And you're thinking, I'm just asking for $200,000. That's not a lot. But that translates into $1 million or $1.5 million in outlay for it. Now, what we decided to do was look at all the back end, look at all the front end, look at all the experiences that app developers are having, users are having, IT is having, and we said, you know what? Our primary thing that we need to do is to make sure that users can first access intranet data as if they are accessing their Facebook, right? Pretty simple, easy to do. And make sure that the guy who actually signs the check is not fired because we provide high levels of security doing that. Now, I'm going to rush through this. The VPN is a VPN. I'm sure you guys know this. NAC is a network access control box, which is the one that says, Puneet is now working at Oracle and he's still employed there, and he can access whatever he needs to access. And he has roles and levels of use and things like that. MDM is a device management function. Now, these 3 boxes are pretty much guaranteed to be behind the access point when you're trying to send anything into the corporate and receive something from the corporate. Now, what that actually translates into is a very clunky user experience, very complex to build, very expensive, and after all of that, you could probably get email, and you can only give it to your employees. If your partner comes along and says, hey, I'd like to look at inventory levels, you're like, oh, sorry. You cannot enroll with our device management framework and sign in using our credentials. So we decided we're going to compress all of that and make it this single beautiful 1U box. It's what this thing. And super secure. Right? You know how secure it is? These boxes, I'm assuming most of you guys are software guys, so I'm a software guy too, right? But when I see this hardware, I'm so excited. So if you actually remove a fan from this box, and it's a little thing that you can pull out, it automatically closes things so that you cannot access anything inside it. So this level of security is kind of unheard of in the enterprise, but it's the one thing that guarantees comfort. Now, that said, great, beautiful box, compresses everything, scales really well, so that when you go and try to sell a mobile app to the enterprise, they don't go, oh, I want to buy this because I have to buy VPN licenses. because this thing goes up to like 250,000 connections in like a little box. Pretty amazing. What does the user see? The user sees amazing experience. There's only one click, much like their Facebook experience. It's like one click, they get into whatever you need to get into. Your application shines because it's done the right way. Super simple to deploy. Low TCO, cost, very low cost in deploying it, and rich applications. Now, this is the time when you can actually go and say, okay, if I want to do like a really powerful business intelligence application that is like charts and it's like dynamic and rich, this is the time you can do that. And if you, after doing all of this, you can reach outside of your enterprise. Walmart can talk to its partners in China and be very comfortable that only the data that they want them to access is accessible. They're not touching the other person's device at all, and it's very app level. It's nothing to do with the device. And essentially, if you're an app developer, the way you need to look at it is, if you're kind of in this world, by the way, EMM stands for Enterprise Mobility Management. If you're in this part of the world, your reach is limited. If you're in that part of the world, your reach suddenly like amplifies. Right? If you build like a really good inventory management application, I know it sounds like very exciting, but it's actually way more valuable for somebody like Walmart. Instead of just distributing to like maybe 30,000 users within the company, this goes to maybe like 1 million users. Right? An enterprise application, by virtue of the fact that somebody is ready to pay for it already, the value is set. Right? So that's sort of what we're trying to do. I'm going to talk about a little bit of like why we do this and all that sort of stuff. How much time do you have? I want to do like
15 over actually.
Okay. All right. I'm going to spend like a couple of minutes on this, and then I'm going to jump into something that I can show. I can just use a browser, right? Okay. The reason why it all works is because what we've decided to do is not do device management, all this kind of crazy stuff. We just decided to take a mobile application, secure the mobile application, make it easier to do it, make sure that it eventually connects into our box, and our box manages all the complexity that you typically see in an enterprise. The app developer does not need to see anything, right? You just need to know that point here, it'll start working. The next company that you build is for, point there, it'll start working. That's the pitch. Okay. So that is the actual experience. So this should be the one that you guys need to look up. Look at it. In theory, anything that we want to do needs to be done, we believe that it needs to be done after the mobile app has been installed. Right, that's our sort of like starting the premise for us was, we want a fully built application to come to us, or come to that sort of platform. You select the policies that you want, and then you get a fully secured application at the end of it. And we want to do it really quickly. Right? So that's why there's sort of the baked, it has to be baked into a pre-built application. The reason why it's like important is we can do it in under 6 seconds and all that kind of cool stuff. Let me actually show what that looks like. Cool. Okay, so this is the it's kind of embarrassing. me if I can get in here. First time? All right. This is it. So behind this is a VM, right? So there's a VM that does the magic behind how to inject the application with new security policies and all that sort of stuff. But before we get there, these are the sort of the policies that you will typically see in an enterprise. It seems like a very a rowdy group of policies. They don't seem to be related to each other, but they do. The key things are like, how do I make sure that somebody's data that you store on the application, under the current application in the sandbox, is stored in a way that is fully encrypted. Somebody who gains access to the device keys, they still cannot get access to your application. Things like that. And some of the cooler things that we do is like making sure that if you have a device that is jailbroken, and I know if you're a developer, you're thinking, what's wrong with that? But if you're an IT guy and you had like a jailbroken device in your environment, you freak out. Right? So we do things like if a device is jailbroken, apply certain policy, maybe don't run the application at all, make sure that the data of the application has to protect things like that. And this thing called VPN, which I talked about, and in many ways, this kind of dashboard here is the extent of information you need to know. So if somebody says, oh, I need VPN connectivity into my environment, you just need to look at that. And you can come in, upload like an application here in a binary form, like an APK or an IPA. And then once you upload it, I'm going to pick the iOS one here. What you can do, I'm going to pick one which is an amazingly interesting application. Okay. You can come in and select the policies that you want, and most of these policies have some level of configuration that you have to put in there. And once you put in this application, configuration into the policy, what we do is we will say, here it will be like, go down here. Apply policies will actually take the application, upload it into this VM that we talked about, the one that backends this one, and we'll start injecting these policies into the application, and then you can download that application in a second. We add about a meg and a half worth of binary on top of it. And the cool things that we do, that I'm kind of happy about, is independent of how many policies that you pick, we always add the same amount of binary. Why is this important? If you're a really good hacker, if you knew what policies translated into how much in the binary size, you can actually break it. Right? Pretty cool. The other thing that I'm very happy about, and this is something that I only say this as a way of like demonstrating why do we have to go through all this pain of like building security models outside of what the device does. A simple thing like a key store in an iOS device is a common key store for multiple applications, right? So device-based is the model, but your device typically gets used for both personal and like enterprise use cases. And in the enterprise use case, they don't really have a way of managing anything beyond what the device does for themselves. So what we do, simple thing that we do, is we actually maintain our own key store space within the device. As part of the device key store, where it's a blob that gets pushed in there, and only secured applications can talk to each other using that key store. Pretty important, pretty cool, because somebody breaks in, get your keys into the device, they still can't get to this federation of applications that are enterprise applications, which are far more valuable, right? They can just look at your Snapchat chats, but nothing else. So that is sort of one of the things that we do. And I'm going to stop right here. Do I have time for questions, or
sure.
Or you guys can? Yeah.
QA, anyone questions for Mocana?
All right. First question gets it. What do we have to give away? Yeah, Chromecast. Yeah.
Probably a
All
very
right,
obvious
Chromecast.
question, but so the data is always stays with the company, the enterprise company. It's never going to be controlled by.
That's a good point. And usually we see the currently, let's say, for the customers that we are selling into, the ask is always that data that they kind of store has to be on-prem. You don't want to store it anywhere else. So we kind of make sure that that's the case. And everything that we do, like the Atlas box that I showed, the console that we have here that actually even secures the application, the data that it transmits and receives, everything is within the premises of the company. The way we do that is a little bit different. We actually put this little box that I talked about in the DMZ, the area where you can actually access this from the outside. But everything, until you get access into the enterprise by providing the right amount of credential, the right amount of enrollment, the network is air-gapped. You cannot get into it. Nothing comes out of the enterprise into your application until you are guaranteed that you are an employee or you're the user that you say you are. You've confirmed with like a PIN and all of that. So, short answer is yes. It stays on-prem.
And of course, the other thing is that phones can be lost so easily.
Yes, they do. So, in some cases, in our case, we actually do something called a data wipe, app-level data wipe. So, if your phone gets lost, and if you think that you have like a really important application that contains data, you can just wipe that application's data and let the other ones go on. All right.
Well, thank you, Sanjay. Big round of applause for Sanjay. So here's the deal. I'm hungry.
Okay. If you guys want to sign up for that you just saw, mobile app protection, everything that you just saw him do, come to me, and I will give you free access to mobile app protection, and it's awesome.
Thank you, Yulia. So let me repeat. Yulia's, what she just said was the security cloud service is actually available to every developer. It's not, it's a self-service thing. If you are building any mobile app, you should be able to sign up, use their cloud services to secure your app. And if you want to do that, I think you can sign up right now with Julia. So it's a very valuable service and you should try it out. So thank you, Julia. Now, as I said, I'm hungry. I don't know if you guys have tried pizza. How many of you have not eaten pizza yet? I'm one, two, okay. Couple of guys. So, I wanted to discuss about the meetup itself. Since you guys are already fed, I'm going to proceed. Number one. I am looking for co-organizers for this meetup. Meaning, it's a meetup that originated in my head, but I do not think I'll be able to run it, sustain it, without help from others. So anyone who's willing to help me run this meetup in the future, please raise your hand or talk to me after this meeting. Yalla, thank you. Second, is the next meeting. So the frequency of this meetup itself, I'm thinking we'll start with a monthly meetup. Depending on how it goes, we might increase or decrease the frequency. But monthly meetup is my first take at it. Is that good enough for you? Monthly is good? Monthly? Anyone wants quarterly? Anyone wants bi-weekly? Alright, monthly is the way to go here. The next up is speaker suggestions. So one thing I want to keep in this whole meetup is invite high quality speakers. That's one common thing I want to have every time we meet. Instead of we discussing things amongst ourselves, let's gain from the knowledge of the community. So invite good speakers. I already have Ionic, the UI guys, committed for next time's meetup. So they are going to showcase their UI capabilities oriented around enterprise mobile applications. If you guys have any suggestions, I want to reach out to Adobe for their PhoneGap guys, Titanium, Accelerator guys and all. Invite them to present their technology so we can learn from their experiences. Again, the theme has to be about enterprise. We'll talk from all the problems from UI, from the application server to integration server and other issues, security, all the things that are relevant in enterprise. That's going to be the theme of these meetups. Other thing I want to check is if you want to make these meetups some kind of theme oriented. For example, ROI of mobile apps. It could be a theme and we invite the speakers around that. We prepare our own presentations or apps around ROI. So that kind of thing. If you guys have any kind of themes in your mind, please let me know. Next up, there is a meetup on July 23rd from SAP about their platform to build enterprise applications. And from SAP, today we have Rohit here. Rohit is going to speak a few words about their upcoming meetup, and he's also going to distribute some flyers. So if you are interested in SAP's technology around mobile applications, please contact Rohit. Please welcome Rohit.
Thanks guys, my name is Rohit, so I'm an employee at SAP. Primarily the reason that I came here was to promote the meetup that we're going to be having next Wednesday. And the goal of the meetup is to pretty much teach you how you can build a multi-channel app in 2 hours. So we're going to have an expert there, his name is Craig Hayworth, and he will pretty much teach you guys how to use SAP technologies like SAP HANA, Lumira, Fiori, and SMP 3.0, and how you can implement them to build your app in 2 hours. So we're going to be having this next Wednesday, July 23rd, from 6:30 to 9 at the SAP Success Factors location in South San Francisco. It's a great location, it's in San Francisco. We're going to have pizza and beer, so it'll be a great place for you guys to learn something new and also, network and just have a good time. So I hope you guys can make it. I'm going to pass these flyers around. You guys could just grab one, pass it around, give me the extras towards the end. But yeah, thanks guys. Hope you can make it.
Thank you, Rohit. So again, SAP meetup on July 23rd in SF. And that's it. So again, wanted to thank all of you for coming in today. I want you to spread the word about this meetup to all your friends and colleagues so that we can have more participation. I want you guys to send me feedback, how we can improve this meetup at all. If you have, all of you have my email address. Again, my name is Puneet Thaflial. I'm working on my startup called Verasynth. Thank you everyone for coming in. Please enjoy the beer and pizza. And I'm looking forward to talking to you on a personal one-on-one basis now in the next 1 hour or so. Thank you everyone.
If you have not given me your business card, put in a Google Chromecast. We're going to do the drawing in half an hour, so get it.
Yep, so there's a raffle for 2 Google Chromecasts, and drop in your business card with Yulia and she'll draw a raffle in a few minutes.